is that, at least in Congress, in the House of Representatives, is that there's really three parties in the House of Representatives. There's the Republicans and the Democrats, but then there's the Tea Party. And John Boehner is trying to be the leader of two parties because the Tea Party has very different policies from the Republican Party. But because they're trying to hold those two together so John Boehner can stay as Speaker, what's happening is that we don't really get the Republican voice at the table. And because of that, then Congress is crippled at this stalemate. And this is not going to change in this election, no matter what happens. So the fact is the Republicans are needed at the table, and the Tea Party thinks there shouldn't be a table for conversation. Now, so that gives us even more work to do. We held a business roundtable on the bus tour in Chicago. We had 6 entrepreneurs. And these 6 entrepreneurs, 5 men and 1 woman, are running very successful businesses, doing very well, and we're having this conversation about the common good. And one of the guys who runs a hedge fund is lamenting government regulation. There is entirely too much government regulation. It's too complicated, we should just do away with it, blah, 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 blah. And so I said, well, you know, it really seems like that big recession that we just went through was caused a lot by the failure of regulation. So are you really advising that hedge funds can take care of themselves? Doesn't seem to have worked too well. And he said, no, we need some regulation, but it's way too complicated. Well, the more we talked about it, what I realized was that regulations start off pretty simple in the first draft, and then business hires all these lobbyists. And since I'm a lobbyist and some of my best friends are lobbyists, I can say this about lobbyists. And lobbyists work to get exceptions or special treatment for their industry, for their business, for their clients. And the more special exceptions, considerations, modifications, all of that, those are what create the complexity. So the complexity is not in the regulation itself. It's in all of the exceptions that get crafted to protect certain industries because they've got good folks advocating for them. See how that works? And so what we got talking about was, well, is there a way that business could see how they participate in creating the complexity of regulation? And can we come to some agreement about an acceptable level of complexity while not unduly burdening the various industries? I mean, it was a fascinating conversation. I'd never thought of it. So the next time you hear somebody lamenting government regulations way too complicated, use that as a talking point, because business is a source of the complexity. Because Lord knows network, and I imagine SALT doesn't advocate on the specifics of regulation. The only ones arguing about it are business themselves. Doesn't that make you wonder? But then there was another piece of the conversation I want to share, because I think it's really a really important piece. And that is, after we talked we only had an hour for this roundtable. And after we talked for about 45 minutes, I finally said, well, you know, folks, I'm really curious. They say that the average CEO makes $10 million. And they want to move it to $11 million. And I don't understand that. Is it that they can't get by on $10 million? Is that the problem? And it was so interesting because Rich, one of the guys who's running this startup company, doing some amazing work with returning vets and a variety of things that was just amazing. But anyway, he says to me, oh, it's not the money. I said, well, it's not. You could have fooled me. It's not the money. What is it? He says, we are very competitive to do business. And we like winning. It just happens that money is now the measure of winning. Whoa. So, my response was, how do we change the measure of winning to something that is a little less toxic? Because what's happening is, because they're highly competitive, highly effective, going for the win, they keep amassing more and more money at the top and not sharing it so much at the bottom. See how that works? But if we could shift the measure of winning, because we're never going to change people from being competitive. I am highly competitive, and I know that. I hate losing. Let's just be clear. It makes me a very good lawyer, and it makes me want to have a lot of Twitter followers. So if you're on Twitter and you haven't followed me, follow me. That's my measure of winning. I only have 10.5. I have 10,500 Twitter followers right now, so it's really exciting. I'm going for 11. But, which is a good thing. I mean, it was just silly, but it's good. But the key here is that these folks who head up business want to know that they're winning. But can't we, the people, begin to say what the real measure of winning should be? So one of the things that's happening is a few programs like the Interfaith Center on Corporate Responsibility is developing what they call the triple bottom line. The triple bottom line is that it's not just profits are the only thing that matter, but profits matter. But also what matters is the quality of life for employees and how the corporation, the business, takes care of the earth. And those are measures that can then become more than just profit. Because as long as we are only looking at profit for every single week, day, I mean the stock market going up and down like a yo-yo, as long as we're only focused on that, money will continue to be our measure. And we've got to break out of that if we want to move in a new direction. That kind of movement can make a difference, not only to the corporation, but to each other. But here's a corollary of that. If we move to the triple bottom line, then what we have to do is move away from our insistence on getting the lowest possible price. Because we're part of this. How we spend our money also affects how this works. So I have now started asking questions from, I never buy clothes in a store, I only do it online, but I'll call up. I usually do it just on the internet, but the other day I needed to get something for the bus, so I called up and talked to a person. That was kind of surprising, but it was about what I wanted to know, were they paid good wages? It was a good price, but were they getting good wages? And did they feel like they have a good work environment, or was it one of these massive call centers? How did they feel about their job before I invested my money? And what Pope Francis says is that every economic transaction has a moral perspective. How do we exercise morality in the marketplace? Because we're participating in this. And if we, the people, stand together and begin to shake some of this loose, then we can begin to create a community that cares for the 100%. Now, this is a significant challenge, but there are places that are making a difference. In Duluth, Minnesota, one of the things we've done on the bus is to do what we call intentional meals, where we go to eat in places that have good employment practices and good food practices. Well, the Duluth Grill in Duluth, Minnesota has got to win the prize. This grill is amazing. They dug up part of their parking lot and used the asphalt to create a hill, brought in dirt, and have planted fruit trees and vegetables to grow for the restaurant itself. It's amazing. And then they've got another plot of land in a different part of the town, and they